Welcome back to Wake Up Woodward, man. And it's been a show. We've talked Red Wings. We've talked Lions. Now we're talking Pistons, the expectations for all of these teams to make the playoffs, man. And right now the Pistons are doing a really, really good job of not just coming through on the expectation, but you know what, man? They're sitting in 6th seed right now.
6th seed.
With an opportunity to climb up a little bit higher. But the news of the day, before we get into the Detroit Pistons midseason grade, the news of the day right now is the NBA All-Star starters and the implications this year. Hey, Detroit is implicated. Why? Because Cade Cunningham he's probably going to be one of those guys. I don't know if you guys saw the graphic last night as well from the TNT NBA on TNT inside the NBA.
Oh, you mean this one?
Hey, I knew you was going to have it ready. Look at that, who's up top, man.
Yeah.
Unanimous. Everybody believes that he should be an all-star. But the starters were announced last night. JB Smooth, do you have the starters there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's bring those up so at least people can see who the starters were for the East and who the starters were for the West. And for the East, starting lineup, Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell. Somebody called that on the show yesterday, Flannel Sam.
Unfortunately.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jason Tatum, and Karl Anthony Towns for the starters.
Yeah.
And then for the West starters, you got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Stephen Curry. I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Nikola Jokic. I'm sorry, JB.
Can we keep it real? LeBron and Steph shouldn't be starting in the West.
Yeah.
And I'm a LeBron
it's been a
slappy.
rough
And obviously,
start.
and I know you're a Steph slappy. They shouldn't be starting in the West. But they're also two of the best to ever do it. And a lot of times it's more about name recognition.
Yeah,
They shouldn't be starting in the West.
But there was this one narrative that got out there that, you know what, fans here should do a better job to make sure that Cade Cunningham can be starting in the future. And actually, when you look at the voting here, you see that Cade Cunningham got almost 900,000 votes. He was about less than 140,000 votes away from 1 million. That's actually pretty impressive, especially when you see some of the company that he was around, and also has his player ranking here in terms of players. He was 5th as it relates to this voting stuff here. It looks like for the guards and such. And that's the thing. Coming behind Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson, then there's LaMelo Ball, who was 3rd, Trae Young 4th, Cade Cunningham fell into that 5th spot as it relates to the total player votes. That's an interesting thing there. Obviously, Dame Lillard finished with more fan votes than Cade Cunningham, but the total player votes put Cade Cunningham 5th. But when you look at the 860,000, I'm actually going to say this. I'm proud of Detroit for showing up. That's a lot of votes.
Yeah.
That means that all of Detroit who would be active in this thing showed up. This, to me, is more or less the rest of the NBA watching eyes. They are playing catch-up right now. And I do believe that this will correct itself sooner rather than later.
I'll say this, too. And he's a damn good player. I'm not taking away from his deservingness to be on the All-Star team. LaMelo Ball getting over 2 million votes, leading the East and
That's what I'm talking
do you
about.
really know ball, people? And again,
Almost 2.5 million fan votes.
LaMelo Ball is very, very good. He's having a heck of a season, but you're not going to win jack shit with LaMelo Ball as your best player. He's too inefficient. He's not enough steak for the amount of sizzle, if that makes sense. I'm not going to say no steak, but they're not doing anything as a team with Brandon Miller and Miles Bridges. I'm just saying, they blow, and their announcer is awful. Get that man off the air. How about you yell again for a 10-foot midi to put to cut your team's deficit to 12 again, dumbass?
And that's my
Fuck
thing.
that guy. I get really angry about that stupid Charlotte Hornets announcer. Anywho, we can move on.
I was going to say, do you think there's 2.5 million people? Do you think that there are 1 million people in Charlotte who voted for LaMelo Ball?
There's no way in hell.
No.
I used
no
to
way.
live there, man. Shout out Queen Kool-Aid and her family. Like, there's not, man. I used to go to the stadiums and be one of like the few people in there. Like, go Pistons. Like,
There's not even 1 million people who live in Charlotte.
No, not even close.
that's what I'm saying. So when I see the 860,000, when I first saw it, I was like, what? Oh, snap. Cade is up that high in the votes.
Yeah.
I know that the first initial was that, man, maybe we didn't do enough. But I do believe that, shout out to the Pistons fan. I've seen even our chat family. They're like, bro, I voted like 10 to 11 times. It just, Darrell Slaughter, I voted 10 to 11 times. So some of those days, it was 3 times the vote. That's what I mean. Like, I saw all across social media, fans here saying that they were voting. This is one where now this is to the NBA media. If Cade goes to this All-Star game and shows out, and I know it's just an exhibition, and he continues to show out in the second half of the season, this is going to be a situation where they can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
The NBA world is waking up to who he is as a player.
You can certainly argue that Cade Cunningham has had the best season of any guard in the East in terms of what he's had to work with and how he's led his team to these type of heights. Trust me, I get it why Donovan Mitchell was the starter. He's having a heck of a year, taking a step back in terms of his individual numbers to play within the concept of a team, and the Cleveland Cavaliers are in the middle of what could end up being a historic regular season. I get it. I get Jalen Brunson leads the Knicks in points and assists, is incredibly efficient for a smaller player, and they're third in the East. But the other knock against Jalen Brunson, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be a starter, is that look at who else is a starter. His teammate, Karl Anthony Towns, who himself is having the best season of his career. I know you hate Cat.
I agree.
But I'll tell you what, I've always defended Cat to some degree, and he's balling out. You can say that he's going to let them down in the playoffs, but he's balling out this year. You can't deny it.
Dante151 said he tried to vote, but the NBA website screwed him. I did hear that from some Pistons fans.
Really?
Well, yeah, some people posted that type of stuff. And I'm wondering, hey, Dante, let me know what your experience was, man, because let me hear. All day, Noop said, LOL. I thought I was the only one. Charlotte Hornets announcer is annoying AF.
Thank you.
He sounds like a dad watching his kids play. I am from the D, but live in North Carolina, so I see all the games. Hey, I used to be like that, Noop. That's where I first met Vince Ellis years ago. He used to be with the Free Press, and now he's one of the communications leaders for Platinum Equity, actually. It was on the road, man. He was coming down there. I would go to all the games. For the Pistons ones, I would try and sit a little bit closer. There'd be like nobody in there for some of them games, dog. And it was, that announcer. I'm kind of with you, Flannel. I wasn't as inspired as you, but I trust me. I feel the same sentiments.
Yeah, and I see Denver Blair. Duren is trash. Ivy is trash. Beasley is showing up, about to score the 6th man of the year. He's not, by the way, but he's
going to be in a conversation.
He's been very good. You guys are crazy with the asterisk of what he has, and I'm just saying that Jalen. If we're talking about the starters in the East in terms of guards, does Donovan Mitchell have more than Cade Cunningham? No shit, Sherlock. Does Jalen Brunson have more than Cade Cunningham? Abso-freaking-lutely.
Can you imagine Cade with Cat?
Cade with Cat and, Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby and whatnot. And, of course, Donovan Mitchell with Darius Garland and Evan Mobley and whatnot. I mean, those two should be all-stars as well. It's just that, nobody is saying. And I even said it yesterday.
Mobley.
Oh, my God. Evan Mobley's better than Jalen Green, by the way, from that draft class.
Oh, yeah.
Evan Mobley's absolutely better.
We have no arguments on that draft class.
I think you could argue Evan Mobley's better than Franz, and I love Franz. You could argue it.
I love Franz too, but Evan Mobley, he's somebody that has continued to. I've just continued to be like, man. I really like what he brings defensively and offensively.
I'm not saying that Cade has no help. I mean, Ivy was having the best season of his career when he was here. Beasley's having the best season of his career. You look at somebody like Duren, who's been better lately, but for a lot of the season wasn't so great. I'm just saying that when you look at him versus the other guards in the East, even a guy like Tyrese Halliburton, who has not had the season that Cade does, I look at somebody like Pascal Siakam as his second star. I look at somebody like Benedict Mathurin, who, respect to him, has really started balling out. Miles Turner, who murdered the Pistons on the first night.
End of it. He just murders the Pistons.
He does murder the Pistons.
For years.
Yeah, so Cade doesn't have no help, but he has less than the people he's competing with in terms of all-star East guards.
I am so glad you broke that down, because that's the thing. It's no shade or disrespect at our players. Our players just finally got a coach.
Yeah.
Our young guys just finally, I love Dwayne Casey, but they knew he wasn't going to be the coach. So you take whatever development you can get. But think about it. His last year, they knew, hey, he's moving to the front office. We're getting somebody new. And then you get Monty Williams.
Yep.
And then you get JV Bickerstaff, but how much time is that going to take to get things going? I continue to tip the cap to JB Bickerstaff and for these players for being able to execute the game plan because they look different. Look how quickly now Duren is looking formidable in the paint. Look at Isaiah Stewart, his rim protection percentage, the blocks that he's getting at the rim. He's one of the tops in the NBA.
He's
Number
got one of
one
the
in
best
the
rim
NBA.
protection percentages in the NBA.
Yeah, and you know what? Let's just get into it because the Detroit Pistons grade. Should we do this or do we need to say hi to some friends first?
I'm looking at the time.
Yeah,
I think we're okay right now. We do want to holler out this super chat from Dante151
Hey, let's do the
real
super
quick.
chat and then we'll get the people the Pistons midseason grade.
Yeah, shout out to Dante151, $4.99 super chat. He said the reason why Curry is in is because the All-Star game is in San Francisco this year, and to not have Wemby and Cade starting is just so stupid.
Yeah, and for the record, I know that I'm a noted Curry hater, but respecter of his greatness. That wasn't hate because I'm also a known LeBron slappy, and LeBron should have been a starter in the All-Star game for the West as well. But that is a good point. It's in his home. It's in a. I mean, Steph Curry is an absolute icon of the NBA and certainly an icon of the Bay Area. So from that extent, I understand it. I just don't.
We know
like,
what's on the way to.
Yeah, we know what's on the way. Yeah.
I will just say that, man. But ESPN, that was well stated about you, man. Detroit Pistons grade, they have an A. One of few teams that have an A at the midseason. Preseason projected wins total, 25.5. Right now, the midseason projected wins, 40.8.
Let's go.
Why this grade? The Pistons surpassed last season's win total by January 1st and aren't content with that. Detroit is in the top 6 in the East, which could guarantee the Pistons' first playoff appearance since 2019. Cade Cunningham's, and that was under Casey. The previous one before that was underneath Stan Van Gundy. Cade Cunningham's development, aided by a better shooting around him, makes this seem more sustainable than any other Detroit success in decades. That's wild.
Yeah, it's true, though.
So how can they improve? Jalen Duren stepping into a larger offensive role would be a positive. Only Cunningham and guard Jaden Ivey, who's still sidelined by a fibular fracture, are younger than age 28 among the team's top 5 scorers. So they put a lot of onus on Jalen Duren taking that step forward, which is something that we see him doing, which has coincided with the Pistons winning. But you're right, man. We haven't seen this type of promise in over a decade. Even though they made the playoffs a couple times over those years, we haven't seen this type of promise in decades, Flannel.
We all knew that it was something that wasn't sustainable during like the Blake Griffin years or during the remember Stanley Johnson, I'm in LeBron's head years. Stupid. But
we took the bait.
yeah, we
I did at least.
But
Sheesh.
this is a team that's on the rise. This is a team that has a young up and coming is disrespectful. A young guard who is here, who you could argue is a starter in the East. Jaden Ivey looked really good when he's healthy. Hopefully, he can respond. He can come back from that. You see what this team is capable of when you add the right veterans around as well, and you have the right coach. As far as Jalen Duren stepping into a larger offensive role, I mean, I think it's on him to develop a little bit more. And he's still young. He's still he finishes at the rim pretty well in terms of the lobs, in terms of just getting easy opportunities. But in order, I think, to have the offensive role that ESPN is maybe surmising for him, he's got to develop more of a jump shot, and maybe someday a 3. That's a big ask, but we'll see.
Man, yeah, and that's the thing. When you go back to Jalen Duren and when he was drafted, what the organization was expecting or saying about him, we all heard the Sean Kemp type comparisons, the versatility, and you know what, he has that. When I see him in the practices, which I can't wait till they're back home so I can be back in there like that. Sometimes feels like sanctuary, bro. Just to be in the gym and seeing sometimes even the cruise players, and it's just basketball development. And you see Jalen Duren over there working on some things. And this year, what I've noticed differently between his practices this season than the previous couple of years I've been able to go, is the level of aggression in which he's attacking the basket. Yeah, you see some dunks, but now I see him like kind of pissy and mad. It seems like whatever the staff is now underneath JB, they're not just going through the motions. They're not just going through the drills. They're not just going through the reps. They're actually pushing them now, because how you practice is how you play. And when I see Jalen Duren go out there in the games, and he's now one of your top 5 or top 6 players in the league with dunks. This is what I wanted to see, dunk everything. This is what I wanted to see, go out there and challenge everything at the rim. If you're going to get the fouls, don't get the fouls reaching in, Get the fouls utilizing your strengths to your ability, to your best ability. You can jump. You know how to defend. You got the longer reach. You can defend the rim. And that's what I love about Isaiah Stewart setting the example there. And we've seen Jalen Duren as J.B. Bickerstaff and co., and he has put in the work, continue to improve. And I do believe we're going to see a different Jalen Duren after the All-Star break. He's going to get they get that little time off. It's guys like Jalen Duren and Tobias Harris and Malik Beasley who I believe are going to benefit the most from this All-Star break.
And you're already seeing an improved Jalen Duren. The Houston game to me was the best I've seen him look all season. But
against the Sangoon too.
Outplayed Sangoon. And Sangoon's a better player as of now, and I think always will be as an overall player. But still, going in there and outplaying him was one of the biggest reasons you won that game. I'm talking about the Pistons. But speaking of elite things, let's do a quick Would You Rather when we come back, because those segments are just so fun. I don't want to miss out. But what do we got?
Sabbath.
You know what? Fuel your Detroit sports fandom, especially Detroit's latest star, man, Cade Cunningham. Can't wait till it is official.